Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Tonight is the February 12, 2015 work session of the East Fishkill Town Board. Now, a work session is a meeting where the town board just basically gets together with our professionals and we talk about matters of concern and interest of the town of East Fishkill. There is no public comment, but this is where we actually get to sit down as a group and as a body and just discuss some issues. So if you would please rise and join me. We have two Boy Scouts from Troop 86. Boys, could you come out here? And you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance if you wouldn't mind. Stand right up here and you could lead us to the pledge. If you wouldn't mind, the flag's right up there. All right? Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Scouts. I appreciate it. It's always good to have Boy Scouts in the audience. Good job. All righty, it's February 12th. A lot of snow on the ground. It's rather cold. There's not a big crowd today, but obviously we're on Channel 22, and we're glad to be meeting already 2015. It's hard to believe where the time goes. I have a few announcements tonight. The first announcement is I received a letter today from Dutchess County Executive Mark Molinaro. Preliminary funding decisions for the 2015 Community Development Block Grant Program have been made, and Julie's Jungle has been recommended for funding. Doesn't mean we've gotten the funding, but we're like to the last point where we've been recommended to funding, and they will contact us when it is formal. But that is very good news, and we certainly will keep our fingers crossed, because Julie's Jungle, our playground for children of all abilities, is a great project. So we thank the county, and County Legislator Marge Horton is here with us, and Marge, you've always been a big supporter. We thank you for that. Another quick announcement, our Narcan training. There is, this whole region, it's not just East Fishkill, but the whole region, there is what we'd call a drug epidemic, unfortunately. And this is a big problem. And as we've seen, treating overdose victims has gotten very difficult. But there's a new product that has come out called Narcan. I'm not sure what the actual naloxone, I believe it's called. And as a matter of fact, one of our police officers provided Narcan to an overdose victim about 2 weeks ago. I think everybody read about in newspapers. Officer Montagno, and saved the boy's life. So we're actually going to have Narcan training right here in the town hall. It's sponsored by Drug Crisis in Our Backyard. Now, this is actually a Putnam County group. We have our group that attends to drug awareness in East Fishkill and in Dutchess County, but Drug Crisis in Our Backyard is a Putnam County group, and they asked if they could come use the town hall, and we're more than welcome, because we're really all together in this battle against drugs. This is so serious. So they're going to be giving Narcan training, and it's going to be here February 28th, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. I believe that Dutchess County Commissioner Reber, what's her first name? Carrie Reber will be here overseeing it, and they're going to teach everybody how to use Narcan. But you have to sign up. So you'd have to sign up. You can go online and check Drug Crisis in Our Backyard, and you can sign up for this class. So very, very important. And if anybody's interested, I think it'd be very worthwhile. We did check. Our ambulance people have been trained. Our police officers are trained. They carry it with them. And again, it's just a very important thing to have. I did want to make two other quick announcements. Public hearing will be held on March 12th to consider the adoption of the map plan and report for the Hopewell Precision Superfund Water District, which is now known as Hopewell North Water District. The meeting will be held at the East Fishkill Fire Headquarters on Route 82. And we're going to have, like, the EPA will be there, and they're going to have informational, half-hour informational displays and discussions. You can walk around, and they're going to show you the proposal. So that'll be from 6:30 to 7. Then 7 o'clock we'll start the town hall. We'll start the town board meeting to consider the adoption of the map plan report, and it will be a public hearing on that. So that will start at 7, but if you want to come for the information, walk around, take a look, chat with the EPA people, please be there at 6:30. And one last thing I'd just like to say, there appears to be differing opinions on our Channel 22, how it's operated, and just, we've never really sat down guidelines. It's always been like a gentleman's agreement or an understanding. So I would propose, seeing some of the emails going back and forth, that maybe, I think at the April workshop, we could sit down and talk about drafting an outline of just rules for Channel 22 production and how they will be administered. So that, I think, would be helpful to everybody to have a set of rules to be on the same page. With that, there's really nothing else under announcements. We will now move to discussion. The first part under discussion is the Lake Walton Park concept. Oh, it was sometime during the summer. I was up at Dutchess County talking with the county executive and some of his people about infrastructure needs in the town of East Fishkill on Route 50 and on the Route 52 corridor. And then after that discussion, we're just talking about things of interest in the town of East Fishkill, and it's mentioned that Scenic Hudson was very interested in Lake Walton. Well, I said, well, that's nice. Scenic Hudson is always looking to preserve property, and Lake Walton is, as I recall as a kid camping there, a beautiful, beautiful park. Has been not used for decades. And so I said, well, that's a nice idea. I didn't really give it much thought. And then I got a call from Scenic Hudson and an email, and they said they're very interested in doing something with the Lake Walton Park. Now, what it is Lake Walton Park had been purchased from Mr. Brinkerhoff, and the developer had come in, and Tom, did they get preliminary approval? I don't know if they did get preliminary. 92 large houses around the lake. That was around 2007, then 2008, when the whole real estate market kind of fell off a cliff. Nothing happened out there. Over the years, it just went into bankruptcy. Then it was picked up by a hedge fund from Connecticut. We've had some issues out there. 2 years ago, they were doing work on the dam and flooded out a good portion of our town. We actually established a state of emergency for that. So we always kind of keep an eye on it. I talk with DEC on occasion, dam safety people, to see what's going on. But not much is going on out there. So Scenic Hudson contacted us, and they'd like to see it preserved. So we talked about it, and I said, well, what would Scenic Hudson's participation be? And they really were hesitant to say they'd participate. So we talked further. It seems really that Scenic Hudson is interested. This hedge fund has a number of properties. Scenic Hudson is interested in a property, I believe, down closer to the river where they do most of their work, and probably down south a little bit. But this one was kind of like tagged along with the other one that they're interested in. So he said, gee, if the town would be interested, they would like to facilitate some kind of a deal. So, I said, well, we'd be interested. We'd have to look into it a lot further, but we do like green space, and we do like the environment, to save that kind of stuff. So then I got a call, an email, not long after that from the county, and they said that they're also interested because there's 2 large areas of the rail trail that abut Lake Walton. So we said we'd be interested in taking a look, and Scott and I went out there one cold day in December and walked around the perimeter of Lake Walton and down the rail trail. It was cold but nice. Beautiful lake. I would couch that it's a beautiful lake, but what I find out from Scenic Hudson with lakes, as we see with Hillside Lake, lakes have a way of turning kind of green and having things grow in them. So it's not a pristine lake. It's not a lake you would think of just diving in, but it is a beautiful area. And when I talked to Scenic Hudson, I said, well, would you have to dredge the lake? He said, no, you don't dredge lakes like this. This is the lake that you would just leave. Their thought is they would like to see the town and the county take Lake Walton and just make it a walking park, allow canoeing and that sort of activities, which I thought made sense. But we talked to them a little bit further, and the price tag, what we're told, the price tag is going to be approximately $2 million. So for us to come up with $2 million, the county said that they were interested also, being the location next to the rail trail. Then Scenic Hudson did say they would come up with a third. So we would each come up with a third. and they sent us this draft proposal, and they call it Lake Walton Central Park, which is the term that the gentleman from Scenic Hudson used when we were walking around. He goes, it's like Central Park. And it is beautiful. It's like, you know, we do have a lot of residential areas around it, and it is like a beautiful, beautiful park. So the immediate need would be for $2 million for the purchase, and the dam is going to need work. We figure the dam is probably going to need at least $100,000 worth of work. We figure just to secure the dam. I think, Scott, we have to rebuild the discharge so it discharges the correct way without it's just like an overflow.
We want to get into the primary outlet control structure and see if we can clean that.
Yep.
Have it back down and get that operating.
Yeah. The primary, what was it? Primary discharge structure?
Primary outlet control structure.
That's what the engineer called it. So, so
currently that's not in use, so the
Yeah.
secondary is what...
Is what flooded us out, actually. So, so I just wanted to provide everybody with a copy of the proposal. One thing I did make in when he talked about Town of East Fishkill and funding and all that, and he talked about Dutchess County, they did say Dutchess County assume ownership of the property, and I did have to send them an email saying that the Town of East Fishkill was to participate. We certainly also would be co-owners. We would not just, you know, participate, you know, financially and then have Dutchess County own it. So that's a proposal that's in front of us, and I just wanted to give it to the board. And any comments, any thoughts on it? I mean, it's just, it's a big project, but, well, I'd like to have your thoughts. Anybody want to?
Yeah, I have a few thoughts on it. I go back there often with my kids, and it is really beautiful land. There's great fishing back there, and it's really nice. It's tranquil. My big concern, one of them, is who's going to maintain the property? There's a lot of work back there. There's a lot of there's cinder blocks in the lake. I know they say that you leave it alone, but there's some things. I've seen tires in that lake. It's going to have to be cleaned.
Yeah.
And there's broken bottles at points. Who's going to maintain all of that?
Right, right. We'd spoken with the county about it. Actually, the county is pretty much in the same position that we're in, as nobody has just a lot of extra cash floating around. This was not a budgeted item. None of us, when we did our budgets last year, had ever thought about this. So yes, that was brought up, and there will be some need for maintenance. Would that be done this year if we purchased it? That's a question. Would that be something that would be budgeted for next year? Our agreement with the rail trail is that the county takes care of the larger issues along the rail trail, and we do like a regular, like we'll mow up and down, and then we'll do minor repairs or minor maintenance. But anything too big, then we call DPW or the parks up at Dutchess County, and they take care of that. We've had this relationship with them, but as the county and I both said, we didn't budget for that this year, so that's a big question.
Would some of this come rec development funds?
Well, how we would fund it would be the question, because we certainly don't have, say, $700,000 just laying around. So I know rec development could actually be, we could actually look at the rec development fund. I mean, I would consider it, this is my opinion only, I would consider it as passive recreation. You know, we have a lot of football fields, we have a lot of soccer fields. Probably not enough, I know. We never seem to have enough of them. But we really don't have any passive recreation. I mean, I walk in the park with my dog, and across the street, we're going to have 100 acres after we get done with our project across the street. We'll still have 100 acres. But we really don't have any actual passive where you can go. We have Emmerdine Pond. You can put a canoe in over there.
Right.
But that's about it. So I could see it being added as passive recreation. That may be one of the funding sources, or a bond, and that would be the other funding source. As I said, we just don't have the money in the bank. So it could be a long-term bond, or it could be a combination of rec development.
And what about the monies to do the dam repair work? Does that come from the county and us, or just us?
That's a good question. We hadn't got to that point yet. The dam does not affect the county. We're the only ones that get flooded out. So, but they do understand the dam would need that work, so we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Our town's in their county.
Yes, yes.
Fair.
Until we have an emergency, we need money, then all of a sudden.
Right.
Do we have an idea of how much that dam is going to take to fix?
Yeah, we're thinking about $100,000, depending. Yeah. But the other thing too, Scenic Hudson, a little bit hesitant, but they did say that they'd help with grants, if they would look for grants. I know they gave a list of grant opportunities. But grants are grants are grants, and we've tried grants many, many times in the past. I don't know how that would go. So, but that's it. But I mean, what I would say, well, I'd just like to get everybody's thoughts on it. Peter, any thoughts?
Two quick thoughts that have both involve money. What would this take off the tax map? Ballpark a year?
Be $6,000 about that.
What's it take out of the sewer district?
Now, it would be a bit more than that, though. We'd have to look at recalculation of the sewer, because it is paying the debt, part of the debt in the sewer district, so we'd have to recalculate that, to see what that actual impact would be.
Here, I have that figure for you over here if you want.
Because those would be the
Pass
two
it over
big,
to him.
those could be the two big questions.
That's a 2015 actual tax that we collect out of that property.
Yep,
And includes the sewer also.
yep.
It's $6,000,
Well, it's $6,000 for the property and about $80,000 for the debt,
about
I think is what it is.
120,000 we're collecting.
Well, that's with the county, that's not what we get, we only get 86,000. That's the total tax bill for the county and the other smaller districts. So we'd have to take a look how we could reapportion that, if it could be reapportioned, or who else is coming on.
And then what would be the main goal of buying this land? What's the long-term goal, would be my next question. Picnic tables and picnic benches, or, that'd be my only other thought.
And I only bring this up because it's an opportunity. I mean, I have no, I think it's a nice idea, but I'm not married to this thing.
Yeah.
But the opportunity is here, and if we say we're not really interested, that's fine, but if we did want to pursue it, this is the time. So I don't know, I just want to throw it out to everybody.
I'm not against it, I'm not for it, one way or the other.
Yeah.
Just, I think those are things that would have to be looked at, and then in realistic terms, would this guy pay for it? Is he trying to make a quick $1 million overnight when he realized that, wow, I bought this on a song and it's going to cost me $100,000 to fix a dam that I own? It'd be the
Yeah,
other-
well, I can't say anything for the seller, if they'd even sell, because I don't think they'd be even, nobody's really settled on a price. This is just the value that the St. Cloud had come up with, so. Anybody else? Councilman Marinero?
Yeah, I have some comments. I've done a little bit more research about this project. John, I don't know how much you know about Cynic Hudson as an organization. I have pulled some of their tax records. I have it with me. But to go over what just Peter said, by us going toward the purchase of this property in partnership with Cynic Hudson and Dutchess County, we're pulling off the map, the tax map, this property. We're going to have to come up with a third for the purchase price, and we're going to have to maintain this property,
Yes.
which is going to be a big burden on our community. The other option, which is also more important, is for this developer to sell this property. If we are able to build 92 homes, large homes, that's a lot more taxable income for our town.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So by reviewing this project briefly, I think it's a loss-loss situation for the taxpayer of East Fishkill. I know that some of the council people tonight have addressed cost. Cost is very important. First of all, we do not have the money. Money is not coming out of the hat. Grants, again, as we all know, that's tax dollars that we are paying. So we will be paying for this property 3 times. Comes off the tax roll, that's once. We're going to come up with our money, that's 2. And then we're going to have to maintain this property, that's going to be 3. So the taxpayer of East Fishkill are going to pay dearly for this property. That right now, it's private. And I don't see anything wrong with that. So, so that the community knows this is a big issue. It's a big issue for me, and it's a big issue for our community. As far as Cynic Hudson, are you familiar with this organization?
Yes, I've only met him a couple times, so.
This is a company that in 2010, there was a $212 million company. This is an organization that works on grants, tax dollars, and you could share it if you want, you can look at it. Some of the directors of the company, they have quite large salaries, some of them $800,000 and $900,000. That's what they're showing on the tax forms. Also, I was able to pull out, and this is for a lawyer, some past property owners that have been taking this organization to court. And maybe you could pass it around, you guys can look at this.
You have their tax forms here?
Yep, that's 2010. I did a lot of research
But what
on
is
that,
the
John.
point on their tax forms, how much they make?
It says in there, if you look at it,
Yeah,
throughout the whole thing, you'll see
Yeah.
the names,
yeah.
and you see how much they declare.
Okay.
Some of them declare $800,000 to $900,000.
Okay. And the point has to do with this project?
The point has
They're
to do
overpaid.
is that this is an organization. I also did a little research. I didn't know that East Fishkill was part of the Greenway Compact community. Again, doing a little Google on these, you come up with name of environmental activists. And just off the hat, there was a gentleman, Wendell Berry. These are people that they want to grab as much land possible, take it off from the tax map and take it off from the private so that they could hold it ad infinitum. Again, the taxpayers are financing these projects. This is not money that comes out of their personal accounts. It's you, John, me, Peter, and our town lawyer. We pay for this land that these people are appropriating from our tax maps. And they're doing this all over the place. So this is another issue that I personally have with this project. The EPA is also involved into this. I mean, mentioned in the paper that we received over here. These are all companies that are Environmental Protection Fund, State Consolidated Fund application process.
No, those are grant sources, correct?
Correct. But these are all organizations that are all in it for the same scope of appropriating private property. And at the end of the day, I look for the taxpayer of East Fishkill. I look out for them because
Well,
we're going to have to.
we all look out for the taxpayer of East
I agree.
Fishkill.
That's why we have a discussion. We're going to have to. Somebody has to finance for these projects, and again, they will have to pay sooner or later 3 times, not once. So that's something dearly to keep in mind when we go over and getting involved in these projects. I would stay very far away from a situation like this.
Okay.
We live in I believe this is a rural community. We could walk anywhere and, birds, turtles, coyotes. I don't see any reason why we need to take this property from the private and put it into a park. Right now, John, as you know, we have the lake in Hillside Lake where we can't find money to fix that lake over there. Now we're getting involved with another situation where this is going to put a burden on all of us to really, how we're going to find the funds for this. So I just want to bring all the information to the table, and so that I know that Peter had some questions and so did everybody else. Personally, my personal take on this is to stay away from these projects.
Okay.
Moreover, I wanted to ask our town lawyer, the draft, was it this put up by, we prepared this, Tom, or somebody else did?
Scenic Hudson did it.
This.
Yeah, Cynic Hudson.
Yeah.
And there is where it says near-term implementation steps. And one says the town and county contact the owner to urge acceptance of the offer. What does the word urge mean?
Well, when you read the entire proposal, first of all, the company that owns it, a hedge fund, as the supervisor indicated, had filed bankruptcy. The prior owner filed bankruptcy they held the mortgage on. Apparently, Scenic Hudson is negotiating with the hedge fund for another property, and the hedge fund expressed interest in also selling this one. So I think that's why Scenic Hudson's even involved in it, because it's kind of a 2-for-1 from the hedge fund type. Urge means that if everybody agreed to go forward with it, then the town board, the county legislature, and Scenic Hudson would contact the owner jointly and negotiate. I must tell you that in my prior dealings with Scenic Hudson, and you're right, it's a community decision, but in the other town I represent, there was a development proposed of 288 condominiums on 342 acres of land, and it was sponsored by Ginsberg Development, which is a very large development corporation. And the community, of course, was very concerned, just as when Lake Walton was before the planning board, about the traffic and the roads and the impacts that it would have. And Scenic Hudson received most of their funding from the former owners of Reader's Digest, the Wallace family. And when Mrs. Wallace passed away, she left Scenic Hudson like $250 million, the sole purpose of which was to enable them to acquire property, keep it as open space for the benefit of the entire community. So in the example I'm using, Scenic Hudson partnered with Westchester County and the town of Cortland, and they acquired the 346 acres so that the development did not go forward. And you're right, there are ongoing costs and school taxes and everything. But there, the community, once they discussed it, they came together and they fully supported it. And to this day, almost 15 years later, it's a very wonderful open space park with walking trails and things like that, very passive. I must say it's very low maintenance because it's not mowed area and picnic benches, but rather, as Councilman Franco said, people walk the property, maybe fish and things like that. So they've done that. They've done a lot along the Hudson River and acquiring open space parcels, a lot in Phillipstown, things like that. So, but I mean, it's a decision the whole community has to make about it. But usually what they do is they try to vet the proposal to their partners. If everybody agrees, then they go forward and negotiate it out with the property owners. So.
Thank you, Tom. And I think so I would disagree with Councilman. I mean, there is a cost. It does come off the tax rolls, and it does cost us the purchase. But in this instance, Scenic Hudson would also participate, which is something to be said for that. But the one point I think I would like to make is that, say they were allowed to build 90 houses or whatever, you know, everybody says, oh, well, there's no burden to the taxpayer on a house. Well, there is a burden to the taxpayer on the house. I mean, we'll get our mortgage taxes and we'll get the ratables, but that doesn't really keep up with the impact of the school system. That doesn't keep up with the impacts to the road that we have to maintain, the police calls, and the emergency calls to these. So you can develop it, and yes, you get ratables, and we've seen this quite often in the town, but I've always been of the opinion, I've told the Economic Development Corp, that really residential housing doesn't carry itself. There is that cost also. So, but what we have before us is just a concept. I wanted to bring because they actually approached us about it. They wanted to know we're interested in it. I wanted to bring it to the board tonight because I can't speak for the board, and I'd just like everybody to take a look at it. We will certainly look at the financials, the impacts, if we were to pay it, what would the actual costs be, and get that back to the board. If you don't mind, Mark, we'll sit down maybe next week, start crunching some numbers. Sure. You know, because we can say, well, this is what this cost is, but let's sit down and really, put down some numbers, and we'll get back to the board. And it's just something that either we go forward, which we possibly could, and if we say no, this just doesn't fit our plan, and then we could always, say thank you very much, and we can't do this.
John, when you say to Mark, put some numbers together, what are you implying? I mean, what is that you?
Well, you have to figure how much you're going to bond. If you're going to borrow,
Why would we want to bond on something that is private right now? I mean, why would I want the taxpayer of East Fishkill carry another bond when I really don't see the need for that? I mean,
well, if you want to make the decision now, I would rather look at it.
It seems like right now you're pulling the rabbits out of the hat. The question was asked, how much is it going to cost, and you don't know where the money is going to come from.
Oh, no, there's, as I said.
Why do we have to bond?
Excuse me, let me answer your question. I mean, Councilman D'Alessandro said, would some of it be rec development? I said, yes, some could be rec development. I could consider this passive recreation. Some of this could be bonded. We could take a look at this. You could at least give us a chance to take a look at what the numbers are going to be. I know you said that taxpayers are going to pay 3 times. And maybe there is a value to open space. Maybe people do like open space, or maybe people would like a park. So I would at least like the chance to take a look at the actual figures. And if we at least give it a chance to look at it, if everybody says, no, I have no problem with that, but I'd at least like the chance to take a look at the numbers.
Again, you know, the numbers, I mean, this is a discussion. This is not a discussion back and forth between you and I. I express my opinion. I really don't see that we have it in our fund $4 or $5 million available. We don't have it.
I don't think so.
We don't have it. We don't have it for other projects that we really need to spend the money. Like you said, the budget is tight. Our controller said that we do not have a lot of money available. And, you know, you're asking him to see funding with long-term bonds. This is not a necessity. We're not, we don't need to
it is not a
retain a road.
necessity. Absolutely not. It's not a
You know,
necessity.
John, you have a theory that you know, and we spoke about this in private, you know, you're an environmentalist, and that's your opinion, but to bring project to our town where it's going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money, I really don't even think it should be on the table.
Okay, no problem. I'd like to know what the rest of the board feels. I know you're more pro-development than I, obviously, but I'd like to see what the rest of the board thinks.
Well, I think our community is made up of people who want to see development, but there's also people who like green space. So you represent those people too. We all represent those people, even the environmentalists. If you know, you don't like them,
No,
but
I don't represent those guys for sure.
well, you do if they live in the town. We all do.
Yeah.
So, you know, they are our constituents, and the constituents have a say. And I mean, not saying that I'm for this. There's a lot of obstacles to this, a lot. But, I mean, if it's not going to cost us anything to take a look at it, then I don't see a problem just to take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
I think doing our due diligence and running the numbers is fine.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that we're going to accept it.
Absolutely not.
Because I think there's a lot of red flags.
Absolutely
You
not.
know,
But running
Councilman,
the numbers just to see where,
when I said that, and, you know, the town supervisor addressed to the controller, put the numbers together. I mean, what are the numbers to be put together from the controller? We're talking about bonding, borrowing money.
Well, possible.
possible. We're not,
We don't
that
have
doesn't-
it,
but that
but we
doesn't
don't
mean-
have it.
but that doesn't mean that
Excuse
we're
me,
gonna do it.
excuse me, and I know you keep saying, I said possibly use some rec development funding. And I know you said $4 or $5 million, we're talking about $700,000 in that range. You said $4 or $5 million, we're looking at $700,000, sir. So if you would just give me a chance to look at rec development, possibly combination of the both. I understand your thoughts, but I would just like at least to take a look at it. And if that's okay, Peter, are you okay if I take a look at it?
I'm all for taking a look at it and looking at the realistic cost. And
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to know what the realistic idea is for the whole piece. And the other thing is, I was just asking Scott, I said, okay, this is great, can I sell this big piece off over here? And he says, no, it's all wetlands, so we don't need that part. But, my question is, they had how many houses to be built here on 230 acres?
92.
92 houses.
Yeah, and that preliminary would have expired by now, too.
Yes, it
So there
does.
is
That's
no-
right. There isn't any approval that's valid right now, but they had gotten preliminary approval.
They get preliminary approval to build 92 houses
Right.
on a piece of property that's got to be 40 to 50
440
acres of good land?
Right.
Wow. Okay.
So are you okay if I at least take a look at the numbers?
I'd like to know the real story before we take a vote on it.
Okay, and we're not going to vote on it.
We're not
I mean,
gonna vote on it.
I just want to know if we want to go forward and pursue this any further. We just say, thank you very much, we're not interested. Now, I know I've been characterized tonight as an environmentalist, which, yes, I am. I believe a lot in the environment and the water table. I like the environment, and I
And
like...
global warming,
Excuse me?
and global warming.
I'll take some
Are
global
you-
warming right now.
Yeah, we could use...
Cold out there.
Okay. I'll ignore that. I'll ignore. You know, there's certain and I know obviously you and I disagree. I believe there's climate change, and I know that you don't believe in this climate change, and that's fine. We can respect each other's differing opinions. But when it comes to the town of East Fishkill, and you can call me an environmentalist, which I have no problem with, but what I would like to see in the town of East Fishkill is what I consider balanced growth. We changed our laws to encourage redevelopment down at the 650 acres of IBM, the IBM West property, which I think is the place to have economic growth. We are doing a project across the street, which I think will provide needed housing. I would think that possibly another part of the whole puzzle to maintain some semblance of balance would be also maybe to preserve, and I like to preserve, some open space. And I have no problem if the board doesn't want to, and I have no problem if the costs are prohibitive. We certainly won't pursue it. But I at least like the opportunity to look into it. And again, I believe in balanced growth. I mean, you could build houses from here to Timbuktu, and I don't think that's going to increase our quality of life. But that's just my thoughts on that. So.
Just one thing to add, John, is that those rec development funds can only be used for things like this.
Yeah.
So it's not choosing between this and paving roads, or choosing between this and, it's choosing between this and some other rec. For those funds,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, I think there's $1.2 million from the rec development
roughly
fund.
Right now.
And there's going to be another 100 and some thousand, I think, from the project across the street that gets approval. So I understand that, money is tight, but there is some rec development funds that maybe help us to offset. But if the board will...
Whatever portion, yeah.
Yeah, but if the board will allow me to look into that, and then I have no problem, because I'm here also to protect the taxpayer. But sometimes you have to take a look at projects that come down the pike. So, thank you very much. With that, number 2 on the agenda is Little Switzerland cell tower decision.
Mr. Supervisor, excuse me, but I have to recuse myself from this conversation, from this issue.
Okay, very, very good, understandable. I think you can sit here. I have no problem if you just sit here. That would be fine.
I will make faces.
I'll ask the town attorney to describe the Little Switzerland. Well, before we start this, can I just say, going back a ways, when did this first start? It had to be 2011, I think.
Yes.
Homeland Towers came into the town board. They requested putting a cell tower on the Little Switzerland parcel.
Water tank.
Where the water tank is. Yep. And I believe we did hold a public meeting with the residents and asked them, and we were told no. Very, very. There's no questioning. The answer was no. So I think we did tell the company Homeland Towers that we were not interested in entertaining their application, and then they found another.
Right.
Property.
Well, what happened is they came to the board to see if the town board would agree to lease them a site next to the water tank, so that if they were able to get the approval and the tower was built there, then the annual rental would have been to the benefit of the residents of the water district. As you said at the meeting, the community said no, they don't want it. It went away for a year or so, and then they came back. They obtained a lease on property, vacant property, right in the midst of the subdivision, and they applied, it was either late 12, early 13, for approval under our law. But just as a preface, when our law was adopted about cell towers, which was probably 15, 20 years ago, there was more local control allowed at these facilities. But over the years, Congress has preempted communities from regulating the towers in many different ways, and it's being eroded every day. Because Congress has declared the use of cell phone and telecommunications to have national interest, and that they left the regulation of it to the Federal Communications Commission. So what happens is when a provider of cell phone service comes to a community and makes an application for a tower, the burden they have is to simply show that on a technical standard, there is a need for the tower in that location in order to fill a gap or to have service in an area. And they came in before us. Our applications go to the zoning board. The zoning board held numerous public hearings, maybe 5 or 6. The town retained a telecommunications engineer, expert on radio frequencies, etc. And it was determined that this was to be located along the Taconic Parkway, south of 82, the Little Switzerland area of the town. And it was determined that a gap exists in coverage on the Taconic Parkway. And so Homeland Towers, which is a company which gets approval for the tower sites and then leases the space on the tower to cell phone providers, has a proposed lease with Verizon to come in on this pole to put an antenna to close a gap that's perceived to exist at the Taconic in 82. So when all is said and done, with all the evidence provided, both because of the aesthetic impact, an issue about whether or not that particular site is the only way to close the gap, our Zoning Board of Appeals denied the application in 2013. Okay, my year's up because it was. So the applicant then brought an action in the United States District Court, Southern District of New York and White Plains, before Judge Karras. They submitted their briefs. We have special counsel, briefed it, filed it with the court. There was oral arguments held in December of last year, and then a week ago, Friday at 3:30 p.m. online, the judge's decision, which is a 72-page decision, an order came down wherein it was the Zoning Board of Appeals was directed to issue the approval. So now what we have done is taken a review of the judge's decision. There are certainly one or two issues we feel might be worthy of an appeal, appellate issues. So what we are doing to preserve the town's rights is filing a notice of appeal, because you have 30 days to do that. That doesn't mean you're going to appeal,
Right.
but it at least preserves your rights in the process.
So does that stay then the,
It should give us a stay of the zoning board having to issue
Okay.
the approval.
because
Okay.
don't we have 30 days
days.
from the judgment?
We
to-
have 30 days from a week ago Friday to file a notice of our intent to appeal,
Or give
Or-
them approval?
or give them approval.
Right.
Correct. So to preserve our rights, we would file that. Well, I have to have a discussion with the zoning board, obviously, to get their input, and then have a executive session with the town board to decide if you feel, as you know I do, there's a couple of points on aesthetics. And the major issue I think that I could publicly discuss is that over on Sylvan Lake Road, there's a tower that was approved some years ago, and it has a fixed height. I'm not going to say numbers because I'll
Right.
confuse them, but let's say it's 100 feet.
Wooden monopole.
So,
Yep.
right, and so the question that our zoning board raised, if that pole was made taller and the antenna placed there, and a second antenna was modified, would that close the gap? And the applicant argued that, no, that was a fixed height, it was approved that way, they don't have rights to do that.
Right.
And the court more or less went along with their argument. We think that's a flaw in the court's decision, that they should have been made to explore that from a more technical point of view. And then there's, of course, the aesthetic issue about the location and the scenic view shed and the impacts to that. So basically, that's where we're at this point. We will file the notice of appeal so we don't get untimely with that.
Yeah.
And then we can meet in executive
Yeah.
session after I've discussed it with the zoning board and bring you those comments, and then you can decide whether you wish to pursue the appeal.
Okay, how long would the stay be good for, do you feel?
It's good for as long as the appeal is pending. And in this case, this appeals to the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit down in Manhattan. And they run usually 6 to 9 months on the timetable.
Okay.
So what happens is you file the notice of appeal, they then give you a scheduling order for briefs, for the legal documents to be filed, and that's usually over a course of 3 or 4 months. And then at that juncture, it's then put in and it will be scheduled for oral argument, and the Court of Appeals are 3 federal judges who review the trial judge's decision.
Okay. All right, well, if you'll file the notice of appeal,
Yes.
and...
And I'll send a memo, and then we can meet and discuss the memo.
we
and I can
should,
give
in
you
the next couple months.
Because I know they're appropriate to go through each and every
No.
issue, because
No.
tomorrow someone from Homeland Towers could watch the stream of the meeting and know what we're thinking
Yeah,
with
yeah,
respect to.
exactly, so. All righty, great, and so we'll file the notice of appeal and give ourselves that window to work this out.
Tom, what was the issue with the zoning board for not approving this project, this antenna?
They had many reasons. It was, first of all, on the issue of that the applicant hadn't fully addressed the alternative of co-locating on the existing tower over on Sylvan Lake Road.
Right.
The aesthetics of it, the impact to the view shed and aesthetics. Those were two. There were many others, but those are the two prominent
main
ones.
Is this their property or is this somebody,
No, it's actually owned by a private individual who is provided, because the base of the tower, it's not a very big area that you need. You do have to have a fall zone, which is all provided for. So it's the part of the property is leased to them by a property owner.
and,
It's a vacant lot right now.
and do we have an idea how much this has cost us in court fees right now, and legal
Approximately
fees?
$7,500 in the court proceedings, and then prior to that, during the zoning board proceedings, we did have a expert on radio frequency work. The majority of his fee was paid by the applicant as a cost of the application. We would have to look at, there's probably another $2,500.
Right, but that came out of escrow.
Yeah, most of it. Yeah.
That was not paid for by the taxpayer.
And the appeal, if you go forward with the appeal, I would estimate it'd be somewhere $500 to $7,500. And that's not me, that's outside counsel.
And this gentleman over here, the other antenna, the other tower, that he already owns a tower on
There's
Seven Oak Road?
Right, whenever you erect a tower, one of the requirements is that it has to be made available for co-location, so that you don't have 10 towers for 10
Right.
companies. They have
We tried co-locating.
they're
as best
required
we can.
to co-locate on the same tower, so that, but the problem Verizon said is that the tower at Sylvan Lake is a lower height, and it's not tall enough. And they made an argument to the court, and the judge bought it, that it couldn't be extended. But our position is that, yes, it could be extended. We could give approval to go higher.
And that would not be aesthetically wrong or
Well,
not
that
appealing
tower
at that
is
location?
different, the way it's located and everything. It's obviously, they all have a visual impact, except the one at the Dogwood Golf Course. I don't think anyone sees that. I shouldn't say that, but I can't find it when I drive by. But the one by Sylvan, it's there, and it would be like a 20-foot addition to the tower.
Taller. Yeah.
If I remember right, there were a lot of East Fishkill residents upset with this,
Yes.
and they
I
came
can
out
say-
in a lot of numbers. They were upset. They were
I-
very happy that we denied it and that we hired that high-frequency engineer, Mr. Graff. He was very, very good. And, well, unfortunately, we'll have to go forward and see what we could do. but-
And I must say, what we did was members of the community, they hired witnesses to testify about the aesthetic impact. They submitted legal memorandums, all of which I think the zoning board did an excellent job of
Putting them together.
not only including in their record, but weaving into their decisions. So they really put forth a lot of the issues that the community had fleshed out during the public hearings.
All right, so we'll be meeting in executive session. Tom, you will file the notice of appeal, and we'll discuss this further. Great, thank you very much. And Tom, I hate to keep you moving here, but we do have to discuss, next on the agenda is the alternative housing law, which was actually, as we know, that we faced a lawsuit previously from some local people, and this is one of the stipulations of settlement was to amend our alternative housing law. So if you would just bring us up to date on that.
This is a little bit of an outflow, both from the litigation and also, as you've indicated before, Supervisor, that not many times, but a few times over the last few years, people have approached the town about the possibility of locating an assisted living facility somewhere in the town, and either through being unable to reach an agreement with a property owner or the lack of sewer or water, they haven't been able to do that. We also, as part of review the zoning ordinance, the alternative housing law that we have on the books now would actually allow an original form of assisted living in any residential home in the town if they met a certain acreage requirement, and it would be a higher number of beds per acre than this law would propose. So what the proposal is if this law is adopted, that part of the code would be repealed.
Okay.
Take it out. And this is a combination, this law is a combination of 4 or 5 different towns and what they have utilized. It is proposed that this would be a special permit that would only be available within 1 mile of the center of Hope Hamlet. And the reason for that is because that has the availability of water and sewer. Even if it were outside of the sewer district, the applicant could extend the facility to reach it. It is for residents who are over 55 years of age. They are either disabled or certified medically to be in need of assistance. It would include dementia, Alzheimer, memory loss. It would not include any mental illnesses, alcohol, or substance rehabilitation. So it is truly what we know as assisted living. It requires a minimum area of at least 5 acres. There are a lot of, all of the bulk regulations here mirror the ones that we had in the workforce housing special permit. Now, I do want to say, so that everyone is clear on it, despite everything that's in this law, before an applicant can come forward, they have to go to New York State Department of Health, and they have to make a case, number one, that there's a need in the area for this. Number two, they have to show their financial capability of not only building it, but of operating it. And it is a very highly regulated area of healthcare in the United States, and particularly in New York State. There are only a few operators of these kinds of facilities that meet all of the requirements of the health department to be able to do it.
And we saw that one of the applicants that came before us previously looking at another parcel.
Yes.
And they're very strict about who they license to do these facilities.
So they first have to do that. Secondly, then, the application is subject to full environmental review, traffic studies, wetlands delineation, the bats, the Indiana bats, and all the other bats are studied, the snakes.
All this has to be new? None of the
All
All
new.
new.
And,
Yep.
well, I mean, no matter what site it goes on, it's fresh start, and it has to go. It also provides here that there's some of the things that we heard, well, obvious things, with these type of facilities, a traffic mitigation thing that you don't have available on other things is they can stagger their shifts at off times. So they can have a 6 to 2 shift, which usually would bring the workers in and out outside of rush hour or peak times on the various roads. It would also provide that there could, the only accessory type uses other than someone living there would be what's commonly used at these facilities, adult daycare and memory daycare, so that residents of the town or the area, if they had an elderly parent who they couldn't leave at home, they could engage this service where they drop off mom or dad. The program is there to take care of them for the day. They do receive some minor medical care, maybe blood pressure screening, things like that. And also for memory care, it provides respite for caregivers that they can have a relative in a program where they know they would be safe in that environment for a period of time. So that would be the kinds of uses that would be enabled by this. Okay. Now, there's nothing that would prevent you from removing the 1 mile radius restriction and making it available on any state, and it also has to be on a state highway. Some major thoroughfares. You could take away the 1 mile radius and open it up to any area that has frontage on a state highway if you wanted to do that too. So.
Okay. And this would actually repeal part of the original 1986
that
law.
alternate care.
Yeah, and replace it.
Right.
Okay.
And basically, the only thing I've been able to find, I find 2 facilities that had gotten permits under the old law. So we would make provision in the repeal that they wouldn't be outlawed. They could continue to operate under that law.
Yeah.
One's on Route 52 and the other's on Carpenter Road.
Okay, very good. Questions? We would be looking at, and obviously between now and the voting meeting, if anybody has any thoughts or questions, please contact the attorney, but we'd be looking to, I believe the public hearing is going to be
The
held.
public hearing is scheduled for your meeting this month.
Yes.
What I think is going to be the reality of the process is that I don't know if Dutchess County's comments and the planning board's
We'll be
comments
back
will be
in
back
time.
by then.
Yep.
So that if you have your public hearing, you could close your public hearing,
Yeah,
put it over
pending.
to your March meeting, and then review the comments that come in from those 2 boards and vote in March. Even though that's a little bit beyond the time that's in our stipulation of settlement, I have an understanding with counsel on the other side that if that, we've made such good progress with everything that they'll give us generously a consent to it. If not, I can always ask the judge that's supervising our settlement for an extension, but since they're willing to consent, that won't be necessary.
Okay, good. Good.
Just on the bulk and lot regulations, requirements for the setbacks, they can't get a variance. When it says
No.
30 feet, 50 feet, that's
When
it.
it's a special permit,
Right.
there's no variance unless
variances.
you said in here that the zoning board can vary, which we
Okay.
didn't.
Thank you.
All righty, that's all the discussion tonight. Anything else? Are we good with that? Anybody else have any other questions for the attorney or the engineer? All right, we just go to liaison reports. My report being liaison to the East Fishkill Police Department. Being February, we got our 2013, 2014 yearly SAT comparison information. And I'd just like to say, you know, still there's a lot of, our police department is still very, very busy. One of the couple columns definitely went down. Domestic disputes has dropped a bit, and I'd just like to congratulate our East Fishkill Police Department because they've adopted a new program that actually was developed by a doctor down in Georgia who's dealing with domestic disputes. And if you have domestic disputes, it brings parties to be more involved with this. And I said to the chief last week when we were talking about it, I wonder, because we've only had this new program in effect for a few months, but we have seen, it appears, hopefully, that domestic abuse cases have dropped, and I would hope that would be the case. As I said, Officer Montagno gave Narcan to an overdose patient a couple weeks ago. We're very proud of her. And I'm just very proud of our East Fishkill Police Department. They are highly trained, highly competent, and very professional, and they do a great job. That's really all I have to say about the police department. Next is the highway. Peter, would you like to talk about highway a little bit?
In case anybody hasn't been outside, what the highway department's been doing is plowing, snow, lots of it, salt and sand and plowing. Couple reminders, keep your garbage cans and your cars in your driveway and on your property. If they're in the road, they're able to be attacked. Do not plow or snow blow your snow into the road. There is a vehicle traffic law. You can be given a ticket. So please keep those on your property. I did talk to the chief of police the other day. They came over, they saw a guy that just blew all his snow in the road, and the chief said, you got two choices. I can either A, give you a ticket and you can move it, or you can just move it and I won't give you the ticket. The guy did choose to push it and blow it back on his own property. Salt is very low, in case anybody hasn't been paying attention to the news. That's a statewide issue. We have been lucky. They did land some deliveries.
Yep.
Over the next couple days, and hopefully they got a bunch today.
Yep.
But they're mixing right now with salt and sand to get through the next storm if we don't get any.
Good, good, good. Now, we've seen that that's been an issue. I've seen all the other towns and statewide. For some reason, in New York State, we buy our salt, as many other municipalities do, from New York State on state bid. We have a contract. Unfortunately, New York State will not fulfill their commitment. Various excuses, we have to save it, we have a shortage, what have you. They're not giving us salt, just they aren't giving many other municipalities salt. So we do have some, and as Peter said, we were scheduled to get a couple loads. I think we got 2 trucks last week. They don't go too far, but we're doing our best with what we have.
They had a few more deliveries coming today, yesterday and today.
I passed them on the road, and it's good to see. So good, thank you, Peter. Nick, planning and zoning.
Oh, well, besides the cell tower,
We did finally get
Yeah,
the
we
decision. We
got
asked about
finally.
that last month. We finally got it.
it's just been tough with the weather to get our prep meetings together
Yeah.
and other meetings, but everything's doing the best we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Councilman Franco, Recreation?
Okay, leagues are getting ready for the spring season. Signups are continuing. The next AED CPR training will be held on Saturday, March the 7th. The AED CPR training is offered free to town residents through a grant received from Sloper Willen and the Community Foundation of Dutchess. Registration information is available on the town website and the rec department. Concession bids for 2015 season are due by Monday, February 23rd. Bid packets and further info can be obtained at the town clerk's office. And town cleanup is April 4th and opening day is April 11th.
Wow. It's hard to believe how fast it's coming.
I hope it gets here quick.
Yep, I was talking with our rec staff the other day, and yeah, it'll be here before you know it. So looking forward to it, looking forward to it. Councilman Marinero, would you like to discuss the Hillside Lake Park Special Park District?
Yeah, before I go to that, if I could I'm still having some issues with the discussion that we're having before as far as creating a lake park, a Lake Walton Road. And I just want to find out what is the ideology of the town supervisor when, I understand after talking to our county executive that this proposal came from Cynic Hudson. This is a big parcel of property, about 240 acres. And my question is, for many years, the town supervisor has had a hard time finding money to do anything to bring Hillside Lake back to the way it was. And now tonight, we want to entertain the idea of purchasing this big property. And where are we going? I mean, basically, ideologically, can the community really know how the town supervisor stands when we disregard the concern for many years
I'd
of
love
the
to tell
community that needs, maybe Cynic Hudson wants that lake over there, but I think it's because it's a smaller parcel, they're not interested. But as far as you're concerned, John, what is your ideology when you're entertaining the idea of buying and creating a lake at a future cost to the community when we cannot take care of a property that it's been in need of a repair for many years?
Okay, that's your question. I would be glad to respond to this. Number one, I do find myself a tad insulted that my ideology is being challenged and questioned, which is fine. Everybody has the right to challenge my ideology. I would like to make a few points right here now. When it comes to the Lake Walton property, Scenic Hudson approached us, and in the end, they said, we will pay a third, the county will pay a third, and Dutchess County will pay a third. There is to be no work done to this lake. I don't know if I said that before, but they said you do not fix this lake. This is how the lake will remain. There is no plan to dredge. There's nothing like that. It's a lake is what it is. It's a lake that's been out there for many, many years. Now let's talk about Hillside Lake. Now that you say I haven't done anything about in the last how many years we've made, how many grant applications. I met with the board. We put together a lot of plans. But the one biggest problem that I have between Lake Walton would actually be a park for the public. It would be open to the public. Hillside Lake, as you well know, is a private park district. So I would actually have to ask permission from people in Hillside Lake if I wanted to use that lake. That's one major difference. I know $700,000 is a bit of money. I don't take this lightly. I look out for the taxpayers just like everybody else on this board. I take an oath of office. I did say we do have $1.2 million in the Rec Development Fund. I would like to just consider if there would be any way we could do this. We are working very, very diligently on a grant for Hillside Lake, and very diligently, and I know that you're unaware of this, or once in a while I've mentioned it to you, and you're very, you know, I can understand Hillside Lake being skeptical because this is our 11th grant we've made for Hillside Lake, and I can understand your skepticism. Working very hard for the people of Hillside Lake, and a lake that I cannot use taxpayers' money to fix because it's a special park district, and we all know that of the 400 houses in Hillside Lake, they cannot afford it themselves, so we're looking for help for them. My ideology, sir, has to do a lot with, I believe in balanced growth. I believe in industrial property, trying to redevelop that. I believe in housing where housing should be. I also believe, and yes, I do believe in the environment, protecting the watershed, protecting from flooding. That is something that I think is very, very important. I am not looking at this and saying that I'm giving up on Hillside Lake. I am looking at this as a proposal that was given to us because Scenic said they would pay a third, the county said they would pay a third. If the board doesn't want to do it, if the finances look too out of whack, I have no problem saying no. I would at least like the opportunity to look at it.
If I just may respond to that.
Absolutely.
You know, I am not skeptical about the grant application. I've been, since I got elected, looking for these grants, because even though I'm a guest applying for grants, it is the most amicable way to fix something that has been broken for a long time. Moreover, I was not referring, or I didn't imply in my question that the town supervisor did not want to do the work, but to repair the lake. But according to 20 or 30 years of this neglect, and now we're putting forward to the board a new project where we have to borrow money to buy this. That's what I was referring about ideology. How do you see one and the other? And if I may say, the people in Hillside Lake have more than once, including the Hillside Lake Board, expressed the opinion that they are willing to open this area, if it's fixed, to the public. I mean, we had meeting with a different council over here, different council member, and that opinion is being expressed. So you are making a distinction, but it is not a distinction per se. I mean, this is a distinction that you are making. I mean, the people in Hillside Lake, they came over here many times, and they have expressed the opinion that they're welcome if this is fixed. But we made a big deal about it as far as not spending tax dollars from the community to fix something that was broken. So here we are not putting a burden on the taxpayers for that project, but tonight we're entertaining the idea of creating new tax burdens for the community to buy a large amount of property that Scenic Hudson is interested in purchasing. That's all.
Okay. I know that it has been brought up, the Hillside Lake people would like, and I believe that you agreed with this, that the taxpayer should pay to fix Hillside Lake, correct?
We went over that many times. I mean,
and I think Councilman D'Alessandro last year, you said, well, let's put on the voting machine and see if the town would like to pay to fix Hillside Lake. Now, you say it's been broken for 30 years. I would say it's probably been broken for more than that. And I know you and I disagree. You would probably agree. And I can't speak for you. I have said repeatedly that the issues that affect Hillside Lake are much more complex than just the stormwater discharges that come off our roads. It's much more complex. You have 400 houses. You have some houses on half-acre lots, third-acre lots. You have septics that may be more than 50 years old. So when you say it's been broken, yes, it has been broken for a long time. I don't know if you're saying that we're responsible because we didn't break it. I don't believe we broke it. We have admitted, I forget how much of our siltation is in Hillside Lake because we did use I believe the DEC had a formula and we used their formula. We came up with how many thousand yards of material, which we will remove.
Yeah, top of my head, I don't know if it was 1,200 ton or something.
Something like that, which we will remove. But this problem with Hillside Lake is much, much larger than that.
You know, again, not to keep this discussion much longer, all these issues have been addressed. We all know all the issues. As a person that cares about the environment, I think something should have been done in regard to repairs, or at least attempting to repair the lake. That is my confusion tonight over here, is that when for a long time we have said, well, we can't do it because we do not have the funds. All of a sudden tonight we're discussing about finding millions of dollars.
We're not finding millions, sir. 700,000.
Well,
I like to keep you straight with that.
700,000 plus 120,000 we're taking it off the tax roll. Okay? And then we have to maintain this property ad infinitum, and it's going to be on my dime and everybody else's around here. So it is millions. It's not $1 or $2. It is millions. And you're referring to the recreation fund. I've sat in a couple of the recreation meetings where issues have been addressed, how to repair fields and drainage, and A lot of those people on the rec department over there, they're volunteers and they do a lot of the work themselves. Thank God for that.
We do a lot of the work also.
But there is a lot to be repaired. That money could be gone. If we really need to apply it, it could be gone in no time.
I don't believe rec development fund can be used for anything other than capital. 'Cause
Capital improvements.
it's capital improvements.
Correct.
So
Some fields,
So if they're
That's why
out,
you have the $1 million budget for recreation maintenance.
Yeah,
right.
Okay,
Some
so you-
fields-
it's gotta be used for purchasing land.
maintenance does not
Big
count.
maintenance.
Well, even maintenance.
Or capital projects.
Correct.
You can't use it for maintenance.
They were doing the blacktop over here, so that money was coming from there. You know, repairing the drainage, I guess, that could use that money for that too, right?
Which drainage is that?
Some fields that they need to be repaired. So all of that stuff comes from that. And we do have a lot of fields in this town that we take care of. I was just talking about clarifying ideologically between one project and the other. I mean, I think we kind of went over it, and
Well,
I just want to go on. If you allow me, I would like to go on to my report.
Just before you do that, because you started asking about my ideology a while ago, I would just like to just further comment. You keep saying millions of dollars. The purchase price will be approximately $700,000 and whatever comes off the tax rolls, which we will be looking at to see if there's going to be anything else coming on, which would be an offset. And the other thing that I would just like to say, you say, how can I do this project when forget that project?
Correct.
We have a huge number of projects we're doing in the town of East Fishkill. So I don't just say, well, we're doing Lake Walton, we're doing Hillside Lake. No, I mean, we're doing the water system across the street. We're doing the sewer and water system down on Route 52. We've got to repair the tank out there at Four Corners. We have so many projects. So if you'd say, well, we have two lakes and you're doing one and not the other, the amount of projects that we do here in the town is rather large. So I just looked at this as being, this is another something that we should consider. And obviously, if it isn't feasible, we will not consider it. But I would like to at least give it a look. Thank you.
No problem. I have a request from the Hillside Lake Park District. They have expressed on more than one occasion, including the various meetings that they had with various town board members, the desire to purchase the land that the marquee sits upon. Simply, they would like to purchase it to become part of Hillside Lake common areas. The Hillside Lake Board will like that the town board put a resolution together to vote on this matter at our next February 26th town hall meeting. Moreover, if the town board votes it down, they would also like a reason for their vote.
Well, I think we previously determined that that's part of the highway, part of the right-of-way system, and you can't sell a highway. You have to, there's a whole process if you abandon the road, et cetera. I mean, we go back and look again, but I think we went through that some time ago when they asked that.
I don't think that was ever brought up.
It's
Yes,
a
it has been.
triangular piece, and it's in the highway. I think on the maps, it's shown all as part of the right-of-way.
Right. I think there was a lady that came up at one of the board meetings and asked if she could, if the community could purchase that, and the town supervisor said, we'll look into that.
And we did, and we determined it was a highway. It's part of our highway
This is the first time
system.
I hear that. Maybe I wasn't around when this was discussed. But I know that they raised the issues when the board members met with the community and the Hillside Lake Board about purchasing that. So can we really look into that and let them know?
I remember, because those roads, as I remember, they're under Highway Law 189, so really the town has a surface easement. It was a very complicated thing, but I'll look for the information.
Yeah, if we
But I
could.
know we went through it all, and we came to the conclusion that it's part of the highway right-of-way, and under the highway law, you cannot sell it unless you abandon the road and it's part of a closure of the road, which you can't do. with
Right.
that road.
Okay, so, I mean, again, if these people are keeping on asking, maybe they didn't get that information.
Sure.
If we could get it, I could pass it on to them. And so be it, they'll have an answer. And again, I know that we spoke about the grant. They asked if the town supervisor has any news about the grant application regarding the dam repairs. That's basically it.
We're working very hard on it. We've gotten requests from DC, and every time we give them information, they seem to request more. So we are doing our best to satisfy all of their
As up through
all their
last
concerns.
week, right? They made another request
Yeah.
just last week.
Yeah, and we are working diligently on it. Okay? If there's nothing else, I'd close the work session. Next town board meeting is February 26, 2015. Thank you very much.